Welcome back to Two Hearts, where stories are weaved to explore the beauty of diverse cultures and the depths of human connection. What happens when a woman who has been burned one time too many and a man with thousands of accomplishments but still has something to prove go toe-to-toe to secure the biggest contract their industry has ever seen? Follow Jordan and Logan to find out if two really is better than one. Please enjoy Rival Hearts. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
In the pulsating heart of Los Angeles, where the sun's relentless gaze cast a golden glow over the city's skyscrapers, the sports agency world was a battlefield of ambition and ruthless competition. Two titans stood at the helm of this cutthroat industry: Jordan Lee, a stunning, no-nonsense woman with a mind as sharp as her stilettos, and Logan Hunter, a former professional basketball star whose wit was as quick as his catch-and-release three-pointer, and whose charm was as inviting as his chiseled physique. A product of the sports industrial complex, it had been relatively easy for Logan to pivot professionally after a career-ending injury, from athlete to advocate, in the belly of the largest sports agency on the West Coast. Jordan's road to representation had been a little more arduous, but if you let her tell it, she would not have done a thing differently. Although their paths may have been dissimilar in their quest to becoming kingmakers, their success could not be overstated or denied. Pulling into her reserved parking space, Jordan was excited to be getting her Monday started. She'd spent her weekend memorizing stats, pronouncing family members' names, refining her pitch, and doing valuable reconnaissance in preparation for her meeting with the one athlete she hoped would round out her growing management portfolio. Now, she was up early, dressed to impress, and ready to put her skills to the test and prove to herself that going it alone in this dog-eat-dog industry had not been presumptuous of her. As the owner of First Seed Talent Group had said when she'd politely declined his offer to be one of the dozens of agents on his ever-rotating staff, but instead, a calculated and strategic power move. Stepping out of her champagne-colored Rover SE, Jordan balanced her purse, laptop bag, and cup of coffee in her hands as she made her way into the already bustling office building. Clacking down the hallway of the prime real estate downtown office on the 20th floor of the block building, Jordan's Ferragamos skidded to a halt as she noticed the massive calla lily bouquet on the receptionist's desk. "It's not even 9 o'clock yet. Who could these possibly be from?" Jordan asked her trusty assistant Trisha. Sweeping her long blonde hair back behind her ears, Trisha grinned as she leaned down to sniff the petals. "Good morning, Jordan. How was your weekend?" the efficient woman asked as she stood to take Jordan's things from her hands and into her office so that her boss could enjoy the floral arrangement. "I think you know who these are from. It's not every day that a player gets a super max extension negotiated on his behalf for upward of 9 figures, Trisha bubbled. Although the capable and astute woman was bound by her own employment NDA, she was an avid sports news enthusiast who could do advanced math. As an entrepreneur, Jordan had had to build her sports agency company image, her book of clients, and her personal success one athlete at a time. After both she and a second-round, undersized point guard took a chance on one another, him leading the league in scoring in his first year and her parlaying that on-court success into international brand deals and movie cameos, Jordan's name was the talk of the town and her agency was finally on the map. With Jordan now again going toe-to-toe with team execs and winning big for her client, Trisha knew what the implications of such a deal meant for Assure Sports Management. "I may be on a good team, but we make a great team. I can't thank you enough." Hughes, the card from Kevin Kuseman, had read. Since working together, the popular point guard star had risen tremendously, and Jordan was genuinely happy that his belief in her, coupled with his own hard work and determination, had paid off. That is so sweet. You know he wants to date you, right?" Trisha said, reading over Jordan's shoulder before taking the bouquet to deposit it in an already prepared vase of tepid water. "You know I don't crap where I eat," Jordan revised the crude and vulgar phrase, but emphasized its meaning nonetheless. Yeah, I know. But the way you've been eating lately, I don't think you'll ever find anyone to crap with," Trisha stated knowingly. "Trish, get out of my office and go focus on the phones and the front desk." Jordan laughed at her audacious employee as she pushed the woman out of her sanctum and closed the door. Jordan's office was a sleek sanctuary of glass and chrome, a testament to her meticulous nature and unyielding drive. She was known for her strategic brilliance and her ability to sniff out a promising client like a hound on the hunt. Her latest target was Jamal Washington, the top draft pick, who she was certain had the potential to set the league on fire. Unfortunately, Jordan knew that her nemesis across town also had his sights set on the phenom. And no matter how much maneuvering or strategic planning she did, nailing down a superstar client like Jamal would be a tall order for her. This was solely because Logan Hunter had his own league experience to draw from and the financial backing of First Seed Talent Group at his disposal. Where Jordan took her career seriously and was all about meticulous alignment and intentionality, Logan took a more laissez-faire approach. His office was a reflection of his laid-back style, with its leather sofas and vintage basketball memorabilia. He was a master of networking, his charm opening doors that others could only dream of. He'd already made it known within their suffocatingly small professional circle that he, too, had his sights set on Jamal, and saw the young athlete as the key to solidifying his status as the premier agent in town. Logan was good at what he did because he spoke these young athletes' language. At the height of his own career and well on his way to winning league MVP and his first opportunity at a league championship, he suffered an ACL tear in the Western Conference playoffs. Although he'd had surgery and was put on an aggressive rehab plan, Logan was never the same. He lost sponsors and brand deals, but not being able to play basketball descended him into a heavy depression for a time. His own agent, who never left his side, encouraged him to pivot into the sports agency field himself, and he had never looked back. The rivalry between Jordan and Logan was legendary, a saga of one-upmanship that had been playing out for years. They were like two chess masters, always 2 steps ahead, anticipating each other's moves and countering with devastating precision. Yet, because she literally started from the bottom, Jordan resented men like Logan who seemed to always fail up or stumble haphazardly into success. The buzzing intercom broke Jordan from her vexing reverie. Slipping into the professional articulation that had gotten her hired, Trisha let Jordan know that her 9:30 appointment had arrived. Standing and taking a quick peek in the discreet mirror behind her, Jordan was pleased with how her nude business suit complemented her dewy brown skin. Smoothing down her long ponytail, she walked across the office and opened the door. Meeting Trisha's vibrant green eyes and subtle nod of encouragement, Jordan turned toward her guests. "Jamal, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. And you as well, Mr. and Mrs. Washington. Please do come in." The final remnants of evening sunlight crested between the hills and created a balmy atmosphere throughout the alfresco oasis. Logan had hosted this extravagant party for Jamal Washington, the new first-round prospect, at one of his company's lavish mansions, a business property, to be sure, hoping to impress the young star with his connections and lifestyle. The party was a spectacle, a who's who of the sports world, with celebrities and athletes mingling in the opulent space. Logan, ever the showman, was in his element, charming and witty, his echoing laughter seeming to come from everywhere at once. But Jordan wasn't about to be outdone. Although she hadn't been invited to the fancy soiree, she'd learned of the event through Jamal's gregarious and chatty parents, who had mentioned the very busy itinerary their son had while visiting LA. Jordan had known that at least one stop on that long list had to be reserved for Logan Hunter, but she'd had no idea that the man was hosting an out-and-out festival in order to woo her potential client right out of her grasp. As the party reached its peak, Jordan moved amongst the patrons with purpose into the dusky night. Although she'd opted to release her long, bone-straight hair from its signature ponytail and had traded her business suit for a corseted midi bandage dress, her almond-shaped eyes with their intense whiskey coloring would still give her away if she ventured too closely to those familiar with her in the house. She'd spotted Jamal's tall frame on a few occasions already, but each time, he was surrounded by a horde of people wanting his autograph or trying to get to know him biblically. Interestingly, she hadn't seen Logan hovering around his prospect, and she was grateful for it. Now all she had to do was wait until the perfect opportunity when Jamal had gained a reprieve from his adoring fans in. Should I have security come over and make the most egregious scene, or are you going to tell me what you're doing here? The velvety bass timbre washed so fully over Jordan that she had to use deductive reasoning to determine if she was being flirted with or threatened. Screaming at herself internally for not guarding her six, she gathered all her composure, took a deep breath, and slowly turned around. Because Logan's behemoth frame had been leaning down to whisper his threat into her ear, when she turned, she came face to face with his alluring chestnut gaze and stony expression. When he didn't immediately move out of her personal space, Jordan took a tentative step to the side. Smirking at her reaction to him, Logan stood to his full, impressive height. "I'm here to see Jamal Washington," Jordan said, having found her self-assured voice and leveling it at the cocky man. "So, you just thought you were going to poach him right from out of my grasp, Jordan?" Logan asked her incredulously. "First of all, for me to poach him as you say, that would mean that he belonged to you, and we both know that that's the furthest from the truth, don't we? Besides, I'm only here because I have something for Jamal," Jordan stated as she withdrew a sealed envelope from her evening clutch. "You don't say," Logan goaded. "Well, I'll be sure that he receives it, so you can be on your way." Logan reached a big paw for the parcel, but Jordan pulled it away. When a slight grin played at the corner of his mouth, Jordan's instincts told her that it would probably be a good time to tuck tail and run. Her inner warrior princess, however, wouldn't hear of it. "Tell you what," Logan proposed as he shoved his hands into the pocket of his tailored slacks. "Come in and have a drink with me, and I'll introduce you to Jamal. With all your friends, fans, and colleagues around? Are you sure being seen with me is a good idea?" Jordan asked innocently. She wouldn't dare let on that she already knew Jamal, and that they'd actually had a second meeting planned. "Why wouldn't it be? I've never been afraid of a little competition," he shrugged impassively, and she wanted to pluck him right between his sultry brown eyes. "In that case, I don't mind if I do," Jordan said, securing the envelope back into her purse while maintaining eye contact with the bane of her existence. "This way," Logan offered, as he escorted her from the shadowy nook on the lanai and toward the massive estate. As they wove through groups of people congregating, dancing, or lounging near the pool, Jordan noticed how some individuals would turn as she and Logan walked by. It had started slowly at first, but by the time they'd made their way into the house, several partygoers were double-taking, and a few had even pulled out their phones. Jordan knew that by morning, the media would be buzzing with speculation, escalating the competition between Jordan and Logan from a three-alarm fire to an inferno. Making their way to a quieter section of the house, Logan offered Jordan a seat and took her drink order. Returning with a glass of Merlot for her and a French connection for himself, he eyed the woman in front of him before taking the seat directly across from her. "Man, if Carl could see you now," Logan chuckled in reference to his boss. He knew the story of how the man had tried to persuade Jordan to join his firm, and how he'd basically labeled her a hottie but a rottie amongst their industry peers when she'd insisted that she'd like to start her own firm. Likening the woman to a vicious breed of canine had never been cool with Logan, but then she'd gone all scorched earth and had enticed several of First Seed's clients over to the dark side, clients he'd spent almost a year cultivating before securing. And the battle lines had effectively been drawn. "I promise you, I'm the last person Carl wants to see," Jordan assured him as she took a delicate swallow of wine. "Yeah, I think you're right," Logan amended as he too sipped from his glass. "So, I'm here, having a drink. Where is Jamal?" Jordan asked impatiently when it appeared that Logan was just going to sip and stare at her all night. "This party is for him. I told Jamal that we'd talk shop in about an hour, but in the meantime, he should go meet people and mingle. Hopefully that will help him gain his footing for the LA scene, in a controlled environment, of course," Logan stated shrewdly. "From all the articles and press leading up to your rookie year, my guess is that your big league orientation was not as methodical, huh?" Jordan asked and took another sip. "Why do you hate me?" Logan asked without preamble. Jordan sputtered and began coughing roughly. When Logan looked like he was going to come over and administer the Heimlich, she put her finger up, indicating for him to give her a minute. When she recovered, she went into a long diatribe about all the sneaky and underhanded things he had done to win clients over the years. "Let's not forget that rude nickname you and your little boys club don't think I know about. What is it again?" Logan knew better than to take the bait. Instead, he answered her honestly. "Jordan, I don't call you that. I never have and I never will." "And why not?" she asked doubtfully as she emptied her glass. "Because my mother didn't raise me that way," he said softly. "Don't tell me you're a 6 feet 7 inches mama's boy." "I'm 6 feet 9 inches and my mother passed away when I was in high school," Logan clarified. Oh, Logan. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean." "I get it. We've spent so much time one-upping one another and plotting the other's downfall that it's hard to consider there'd be a shred of humanity in the other person. Am I right?" "Well, yeah," Jordan blurted, and they both laughed. Breaking up the previously charged moment, Jordan lowered her guard the slightest bit. Careful not to reveal any trade secrets, she did share a bit about her path to sports management. She told him how before branching out to run her own boutique sports agency firm, she'd previously worked in state government as a procurement and contracts analyst. The environment had been tough for her because she'd worked almost exclusively with male coworkers. Her one comfort amongst all the chauvinism and testosterone slathered throughout the office had been the long-standing relationship she'd had with a colleague-turned-romantic partner. It was a foregone conclusion that they'd get married one day. But then he'd gotten promoted to a managerial role, and things seemed to go bad overnight. Instead of requesting to reassign her to another department, Jordan's manager boyfriend had suggested that they keep the relationship a secret. When people started noticing the pair chatting incessantly or always arriving or leaving at the same time, the rumors started to fly. Jordan had been gossiped about cruelly and had been accused of trying to sleep her way to the top. Unfortunately, too fearful of losing his job, her boyfriend had let her take on the harassment all on her own until she couldn't endure it anymore. "You could have sued," Logan pointed out firmly. He didn't know why Jordan's story struck such a chord with him. "I was young and I was green. I didn't know what recourse was available to me then. All I knew was that if God got me out of there, I would work diligently to never need anyone in order to excel in my career." "Especially a man," was the part she left out of the conversation, but Logan could read it clearly in her beautifully set features. "I had no idea," Logan said in disbelief. "Yeah, well, it's hard out here for a Roddy," Jordan said poker-faced. "Nah, you're definitely a hottie, Jordan," he laughed. "Please don't drunk flirt with me, Logan. It's an absolute turn-off." Jordan laughed back. "I'm not drunk, Jordan. Just having a good time learning about my enemy. Besides, I've only had," Logan had started to say one, but immediately noticed the 3 glass tumblers and 2 wine glasses that a member of the catering staff had brought out to them while they chatted. "And what about you, Mr. Hunter? You're leaving me out here by myself, all naked and exposed," she complained. Logan stared at her intimidatingly. "I'm referring to my vulnerability, my humanity," she clarified, and his face flushed a little. "Well," he cleared his throat and took another sip of his drink. "From my years in the league to my career as an agent, I've always been labeled aggressive in my pursuits of representing the next big athlete." Logan went on to explain that before the loss of his mother, his barely there father had only been interested in the successful moments of his life. Where his mother had positively balanced discipline, nurture, and support for her only son, he seemed to be never enough for his father. After his mother had died of a rare adrenal disease, his father had pushed him relentlessly. Even after becoming a household name, his father would randomly call him after an especially grueling game to complain that Logan had not been giving his all. The common refrain that Logan had ultimately come to expect from his father was for him to provide more effort, more drive, more conditioning, and, of course, more financial support. I think we both might need therapy. Jordan's attempt to lighten the mood caused a stubborn lift at the corner of Logan's mouth. He'd been about to reply when Jamal walked up. Here you are, man. I swear I was looking everywhere for you, Jamal huffed, as if he'd just finished running a marathon. Yeah, I was just trying to give you a little space, but your timing couldn't be more perfect. Jamal, I'd like to introduce you to Jordan. What are you doing here? I didn't even recognize you with your hair down and your... Jamal trailed off when Logan looked between the two of them quizzically. Do you two know one another? Jamal asked instead. Do you two know one another? Logan echoed. Actually, I made Jamal's and his parents' acquaintance a few days ago, Jordan stated as she slipped her mask back into place. Is that right? Logan asked, his previously warm eyes turning cold. Yes, that's right. And I stopped by to give you something, Jordan continued as she turned her attention from Logan to Jamal. What is it? Jamal asked curiously. Just some attention to detail and a little personal touch from Assure Sports Management, Jordan said, as if the gesture were no big deal. Removing the envelope from her purse, she handed it over to the curious young man. In seconds, the adhesive had been torn through to reveal a pair of concert tickets. Yo, I can't believe this! Jamal bellowed and looked to Logan to duplicate his excitement. When the man only offered a confused expression, Jamal went on to explain. Kenzo Kimura. He's a classically trained jazz pianist. He hasn't performed live in over 10 years, Jamal shared excitedly. And he's performing a one-night-only, sold-out concert tonight, Jordan explained. Oh. Jamal looked stricken as he realized he'd have to miss out on this opportunity in order to keep his commitment with Logan. The quiet tension between the three could have been cut with a knife, no one willing to speak first. Biting back an angry response, Logan finally relented. You know what, man? Go ahead and check out the show. It'll give you an opportunity to experience the renovated concert hall and get a better triangulation of the city at night. We can meet up later in the week, he said professionally. Really, Logan? That's good-looking out, man, for real. I'll give your offices a call in the morning to get something on the books, Jamal said, already shifting gears in light of the unexpected change of plans. You do that, Logan said through a strained smile as he clasped hands with Jamal and ended the ritual in a bro hug. Jordan? You want to come? Jamal turned back to the woman and asked sheepishly. Jordan hadn't even considered that Jamal would have wanted her to accompany him, but she quickly recognized the unpredicted offer as a boon, nonetheless. Yes, I'd love to. If we leave now, we'll get there with plenty of time to spare, she offered pragmatically. As they prepared to leave, Jamal fielded a few more questions and photo ops en route to the valet. Following behind him at a reasonable pace, Jordan was nearing the front door when she was grabbed by the wrist and spun around. You're playing a dangerous game, Jordan, Logan said, his voice low and intimidating as he leaned into her personal space. You might just find yourself on the losing end. Jordan smiled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Logan, you should know by now that I never lose. I'm just getting started. As the week progressed, the tension between the two surged to palpable levels. In addition to negotiating endorsements and maximizing deals for their current clients, both Jordan and Logan were still laying it on thick for Jamal. One evening, at a charity event, they found themselves at first unknowingly and then unwillingly sharing space in the elegant ballroom. Because her business was a small one, the table occupied by only she and Trisha for much of the night had had more than enough room for additional patrons to sit. This happy coincidence allowed the Washingtons to sit together, and it would have given Jordan more face time with Jamal, if not for Logan's facetious interference. Are these seats available? There now, Jordan replied smoothly, her eyes locked on Logan's as she gestured for him and the Washingtons to take their seats. The subtle power play was not lost on either of them, and the air crackled with unspoken challenge. As the evening wore on, the banter between Logan and Jordan became a dance of wits, each trying to influence Jamal without appearing too aggressive. Logan, with his charming smile and easygoing demeanor, regaled Jamal with stories of his own rise to stardom, emphasizing the importance of having a seasoned agent by his side. Jordan, on the other hand, highlighted her strategic mindset and her ability to think outside the box, promising Jamal that she would always have his best interests at heart. You know, Jamal, with Jordan, you'd have someone who understands the modern athlete's needs, Logan said, his voice laced with a hint of sarcasm. She's all about that personal touch, right? Jordan smirked, not taking the bait. And with Logan, you'd have someone who knows the game inside and out. But sometimes, knowing the game isn't enough. You need someone who can adapt and evolve with you in real time. Jamal's parents, sitting across from them, exchanged glances. You know, we've been thinking, Mr. Washington began, his voice thoughtful. Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea for both of you to work together. You both bring different strengths to the table, and we want what's best for Jamal. The suggestion hung in the air, and both Jordan and Logan were taken aback. Even Trisha had put down her glass of wine and had stared between the two longtime adversaries. They had never considered the possibility of collaborating, but the idea was not without merit. That's an interesting thought, Jordan said, her mind racing with the implications. But Logan and I have our own methods, and we work for competing agencies. It might be challenging to find a common ground. Logan nodded, his expression serious. You're right. But if it means giving Jamal the best representation possible, I'm willing to consider it. As the night drew to a close, Jordan and Logan excused themselves, leaving the Washingtons to their thoughts. They stepped out onto the balcony outside the grand ballroom, the cool night air a stark contrast to the heated exchanges inside. Well, that was unexpected, Logan said, his voice low as he leaned against the railing. Unexpected, but not impossible, Jordan replied, her eyes meeting his. But we need to talk about this. Privately. Logan nodded, and they made their way to a quiet corner of the balcony, away from any prying ears. The tension between them was palpable, a mix of professional rivalry and something more, an unspoken attraction that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. Look, Jordan, I know we've had our differences, but if this is what Jamal and his parents want, we owe it to them to at least try, Logan said, his voice firm. Agreed. But we need to set some ground rules. We'll need to work with our lawyers to establish clear representation agreements so we're all on the same page about who does what, the compensation structure, and how to protect our intellectual property. You don't trust me? Logan gasped. Additionally, she continued as if he hadn't spoken, no undermining each other, no backstabbing, and no letting our personal feelings get in the way of what's best for the Jamal Washington brand, Jordan replied, her eyes never leaving his. Logan chuckled, a low, husky sound that sent a shiver down Jordan's spine. Personal feelings, huh? You sure you can handle that? Jordan rolled her eyes, but there was a hint of a smile on her lips. I can handle anything you throw at me, Logan. I've been handling you for years. They shared a moment of silence, the weight of their decision hanging heavy in the air. Then, with a nod, they turned and walked back inside, ready to face the challenges ahead together. Days later, with a fair contract in place that all parties could agree upon, Jamal happily signed on the dotted line. He and his family had returned home feeling confident about their decision, and he'd left with a plan in place for them to all meet in New York on draft night in a few months. Interestingly, Logan found that although both he and Jordan maintained their positions at their respective firms, he'd ended up spending much more time on the phone and in meetings with Jordan than any of his other colleagues. Amongst the First Seed staff, his professional peers couldn't help but comment on the abnormal arrangement that had added another stellar client to the win column, albeit with an asterisk. He and Jordan's new working arrangement had been network, social media, and now workplace fodder. Logan just wanted to do the work that he loved and make a lot of money in the process. He had never before realized how unimaginative and stuck in old ways so many of his colleagues were. Didn't they know that if they didn't pivot in this fast-paced market, that they would quite literally get left behind? I can't believe you're working with Jordan Lee. His own agent Mark had inquired with both curiosity and genuine concern during one of his perfunctory drop-ins. Isn't she a bit intense? Mark had caught Logan off guard by the question, since he'd been in the copy room at the time scanning a few contracts. Ushering his mentor and friend out of the bustling hallway and into the nearest stairwell, Logan bristled at the implications of the question as he closed the door before explaining. Jordan is one of the most dedicated and tactical agents in the business. She's direct, yes, but that's what makes her good at what she does. I don't doubt it, Logan, but how are you going to keep from getting burned? Mark asked. She's not the man-eater that Carl would have everyone to believe she is. Is she tough? Jordan definitely gives as good as she gets, but I'm learning that she is also misunderstood. How so? Mark asked, intrigued by the shift in conversation. Logan briefly disclosed the trauma and harassment that Jordan had endured before she left her government job to go and work for herself. He knew the story had resonated just as strongly with Mark as it had the first time he'd heard it, when the man, who made a living being loud and brash, was left contemplative and stoic. Unbeknownst to Logan, his defense of Jordan had set into motion an avalanche that had the potential to bury them both alive. Reviewing the CCTV monitors in an office down the hall, their boss grinned wickedly as he picked up his phone. As the days turned into weeks, the camaraderie between the agents had become less forced and was still going strong. Logan had gotten an early start in the office after his before-dawn workout and had just sat down at his desk to check his emails when an alert on his phone pinged. Seeing that it was from his favorite sports news app, he clicked it open. Reading the first few lines in horror, he slammed down the device and stormed out of his office. Knowing that Mark was also an early riser, Logan made a beeline for the man's office and entered without invitation. Before Logan could crash out on him, Mark let him know that he'd also just seen the article in question, and he had no idea how that information could have gotten leaked. In his heart of hearts, Logan hadn't believed that Mark could or would do such a despicable thing, but the truth remained that he was the only person Logan had shared that information with. Intent to keep an eye on the developing story and pull a strategy together if he didn't hear from Jordan by noon, Logan went back to his desk, a sense of foreboding ricocheting through his body. Unfortunately, like he thought it would, the rumor mill began to churn. Whispers of Jordan's past, of her alleged moral and professional improprieties in the workplace, started to circulate. Jamal and his parents, hearing the rumors, were unsettled. They had seen firsthand the dedication and passion Jordan brought to her work, but the shadows of doubt cast by the rumors were hard to ignore. Both Jordan and Logan had presented a united front and assured the Washingtons that the matter was slanderous gossip that would blow over soon. When the ever-aware Mrs. Washington asked Jordan directly why she nor Logan had brought the issue up to Jamal in the past month since the information went viral, her cool response was that she simply did not entertain lies. On a Friday evening, just a week before the draft, Jamal and his parents sat in their living room, weighing the present and future decisions they'd need to make to secure the longevity of Jamal's name and image. With the matter heavy on their minds and their hearts, the Washingtons had made a choice. Giving Jordan the courtesy of their first call, their voices were filled with regret as they informed her that, effective immediately, they would be terminating her services. The news hit Jordan hard, but she maintained her composure, knowing that they'd only done what they'd thought was right. She even recited back one of the conditions she'd given Logan that night on the ballroom balcony to keep from bursting into tears. No letting our personal feelings get in the way of what's best for the Jamal Washington brand. Meanwhile, Logan, who had been keeping a close eye on the situation, was furious. News of the contract termination had been a predictable whirlwind, but Logan had not expected so many of the men, and a few women that he'd worked alongside for years, to relish the woman's downfall the way that they were. In their weekly staff meeting, Carl had gone so far as to bring up chickens coming home to roost and not counting eggs before they'd hatched, like he'd become the company's de facto Farmer Brown or something. The snickers around the room made clear that everyone knew what Carl was talking about, and the sheer ugliness of it all made Logan feel sick and a little guilty. He'd known that he wasn't to blame for the rumors, and he was willing to bet his life that neither was Mark, but somehow, one of Jordan's most painful life experiences had caused her professionalism and years of measurable success in this industry to be questioned and ridiculed. Unable to take it anymore, Logan got up from his office and headed to the stairwell to call Jordan. "Hey," Jordan acknowledged blankly. "How are you doing?" Logan asked as he waded through the perfunctory small talk. After about 5 minutes of mindless chatter, Jordan couldn't take it anymore. "Did you need something, Logan?" "I'm very busy at the moment." "Are you?" Logan had honestly asked the question in surprise, but the second the words left his lips, he knew how they must have sounded to her. "Still a jerk, I see," she sighed in defeat. The fire that once singed anyone that dared to cross Jordan Lee with foolishness had effectively gone out. "I'm sorry, Jordan. I didn't mean that the way that it sounded. I was calling to check up on you, but to also tell you something." A jerk, sure. A knave, perhaps. But Logan Hunter had never been a coward. Although he didn't know how, he wanted to get it off his chest, the thoughts that he might have been the one to unintentionally spark the rumors that were currently wreaking havoc in Jordan's life. "Tell me what, Logan? And can I have the Cliff's Notes version, please? I still have a lot of work to do today," she snapped. Logan took a deep breath and laid everything out. After he was finished, there was no yelling, no cursing, no anything. Jordan sat quietly on the other end of the line, absorbing what she'd just heard. "Say something," Logan said quietly. "Was it sabotage?" Jordan cut straight to the chase and asked him directly. "What? Sabotage how?" Logan asked disbelievingly. "We work for competing firms, Logan. Was this all a ruse that I was too stupid to uncover because I had the fish on the hook and I wanted him so badly?" Jordan asked of her pursuit of Jamal. "No, of course not. I would never. But you see, that's the thing, Logan. I shared something personal and private and painful with you. You, not anyone else." "And what did you do?" she asked rhetorically. "You went and repeated it to someone." "It wasn't like that, Jordan. People kept saying such ignorant and short-sighted things about you, and I was only trying to set the record straight and let it be known that you were a great agent, but an even better person," he said. "No matter what your intentions were or who you entrusted them with, you took it upon yourself to share business that did not belong to you. Maybe it's good that we are no longer partners. How can I ever trust someone who would be so callous with my—" Jordan stopped short, then changed course. "I'm just glad I found out before we were in too deep," she finished. The double entendre slammed violently against the organ in Logan's chest. "Jordan, please. Don't be like that. Can I stop by later to check in on you?" Logan had been meaning to do that for weeks, but wanted to give her as much time and space as she needed. "No, that won't be necessary. And anyway, I have to go see a shortstop about a deodorant brand deal," she said matter-of-factly before telling him goodbye and disconnecting the call. Logan wanted to yell. He almost did, but knew the sound would reverberate throughout the 35-flight stairwell. Instead, he looked up and scrubbed his hands over his face in defeat. When he stabilized his breathing and opened his eyes, he realized that he was looking directly at a surveillance device that he had never seen before. Cautiously, he made his way down several flights of stairs, then back past his landing and up a few more flights. Sure enough, no other floor had a device installed. Immediately, Logan's blood ran cold. Since teaming up with Jordan, he'd taken many of her calls in this stairwell to avoid disrupting his colleagues, but more importantly, to avoid being overheard. He knew that lots of people took their daily reprieve in the well, but he'd been conducting business here. And apparently telling business as well. Putting two and two together quickly, Logan realized that this revelation could only mean one thing. Storming from the stairwell, Logan didn't bother with his boss's receptionist before he waltzed unannounced into Carl's office. Feigning surprise, Carl asked Logan what he could do for him. Logan, in turn, confronted Carl, demanding to know the source of the rumors about Jordan. Carl, ever the manipulator, pled ignorance, but Logan saw through the facade. Taking a second calming breath that day, Logan had almost been prepared to sit down and discuss the matter like gentlemen until Carl's snide conclusion about Jordan's quick ascension to the top of their industry being a reward for spending more time on her back than at her desk had him seeing red. In a fit of anger, Logan punched Carl square in the face, the force of the blow sending the man reeling. Logan stormed out of the office, his mind made up. He quit, effective immediately. With a distressed heart, Logan's next stop was to find Jordan. It was likely that she'd been telling the truth about her client meeting this morning because, according to the grapevine, Jamal had been the only one of her clients to jump ship because of the recent dust-up. Still, his calls and stops into her office had proven fruitless. A frustrating time later, Logan had found Jordan working, just not where he would have expected her to be. "What are you doing here?" she asked when she saw him through the peephole. "Let me in, Jordan," he barked unrelentingly. Logan only waited a few moments as the tumblers in the door locks disengaged, and she opened her front door for him. "How'd you find me?" she asked as he followed her into her home and trailed her to her bright and aesthetically pleasing home office. "I sort of bribed Trisha into giving me your whereabouts," he chuckled embarrassedly. "If things weren't so up in the air right now, I'd fire her," Jordan stated impassively. Logan knew that that was the farthest from the truth, but he let her have her complaint fest. Once it became clear that he hadn't conducted a drive-by and that he had instead intended to stay a while, Jordan offered him something to drink before settling back into her work. He approached her cautiously, his voice soft as he sought to make amends for the rumors and the pain they'd caused her. "Jordan, I'm so sorry. Carl is the one who started those rumors, and I should have done more to stop them. I never meant for things to go this far. Whether it's been us working together or you getting through this past month with your head still held high, I just want you to know that I admire your strength and determination. I envy it, actually. You challenge me in ways no one else does, and you make me feel alive." Jordan looked at him, her eyes flashing with a mix of anger and attraction. "Logan, I don't need your pity. I can take care of myself." Logan shook his head. "It's not pity, Jordan. It's admiration. You're one of the most capable and intelligent people I know, and I'm drawn to you because of it. I've fallen for you, and I can't deny it any longer." Jordan was taken aback, her heart racing. She was very attracted to Logan, but she was wary of his motives. "Logan, are you sure this isn't just another one of your schemes to get me off my game?" A beat passed before Logan threw up his hand and shouted at her. "It doesn't have to be this hard. Why are you so difficult, woman?" he asked exasperatedly. "Hello," Jordan yelled back as a reminder and waved her hands all around in reference to the nebulous nature of the past month. Logan reached out, gently taking her hand and pulled her up from her desk. "Jordan, I promise you, this is real. I want to be with you. I want to work with you, not against you. I want us to be partners again, but this time, in every sense of the word." Jordan looked up at him, her expression a mix of surprise and contemplation. "Logan, think about what you are saying. I know you are feeling empathy for me right now, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate you coming over here and telling me the truth. I just don't want you to conflate your noble sense of obligation into something else." Logan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he was about to say. "But that's just it, Jordan. There is something else," he said, standing a little more closely to her. I love you. I think I always have. And I want to work with you, only you, from now on. I want to help you build your dream and to support you in every way I can." Jordan's eyes widened in shock, but she didn't pull away as Logan pulled her in even closer. "Logan, I don't know what to say. I never expected this." "You don't have to say anything," Logan replied, his thumb gently caressing her knuckles. "Just know that I'm here for you, always. And together, we can face anything." As they stood there, face to face, with the weight of their shared past and the promise of their future hanging in the air, They knew that they had found something special, a partnership built on mutual respect, trust, and love. Finally sealing the deal with a passionate kiss, they were ready to take on the world together.